This is advice that cuts across life and business, and as well as like your professional experience, is that you need to leave what you think you need to look like behind. So
welcome to the People in Legal podcast. This is the Law and Beyond show, and I am your host, Chantal McNaught. And I am so pleased to introduce today's guest, Yule Guttenbeil. Yule is a commercial lawyer specialising in legal technology in energy markets and legal tech generally. As the principal of Attune Legal, Yule has pioneered innovative compliance systems for energy retailers and technology companies. His expertise in document automation means that he's not only efficient at delivering exceptional legal services, but Yule is award-winning, being a finalist in the 2023 Corporate Council Awards in the Infrastructure, Utilities and Energy category, and the 2024 Australian AI Awards AI Consultant of the Year in the SME category. Just like many of the guests on this show, Yule is also a multi-entrepreneur. Not only does he have Attune Legal, but he has established Mode.law, a subscription-based platform providing legal document automation and management, Libris, a technology consulting service for legal practitioners, Lex Nova, that powers the Lex Nova Guild, and Grotesque, a community-focused co-working space for professionals in Preston, Victoria. Oh, it's amazing. We were just talking off air for a little bit about how there's moments in our life that we get stuck, and there's some techniques and things that we can do to get unstuck. Hopefully one of them is jumping on a podcast and having a fun chat about all things legal universe.
that's right, depends on what you're trying to get unstuck.
That's it. Is it all right if we jump to the sticking point, because that's to do with your recent experience delving into the world of vibe coding, and that has something to do with Lex Nova, which I left quite mysterious in your bio there. So maybe we'll just jump to that question, if that's all right, which is with Lex Nova, you're building a platform and you're doing it through vibe coding. Mm-hmm. Could you unpack the concept of vibe coding
Sure.
for the listeners?
Okay, so the Lex Nova Guild is a community of lawyers that I'm in the process of putting together. It's just a community where lawyers will, and we want to provide some tools that enable lawyers that are in private practice, usually smaller firms, solo practitioners, to work together. And what we want to do is remove the friction that gets in the way of allowing independent lawyers to collaborate more easily. So the main thing that we were trying to fix with this was administration, and computers are pretty good at that side of things. So in order to be able to allow that collaboration to work smoothly, it was pretty obvious that we needed some software that was custom built for that. Unfortunately, there's just nothing that we can get off the shelf that will do what we need to be able to just, elegantly and efficiently allow lawyers to jump on and farm out work to their friends, or see if there's anything going when things get a little quieter.
I like to imagine when you say about how it's there to help collaborate, that it's kind of like the friend group chat where you're organizing and planning a get together, and it's like, okay, so this needs to happen, who wants to do this, who wants to do that, and but obviously a little bit more legal professional, a little bit more streamlined, being able to help work out the cost and that kind of aspect of legal practice and sole entrepreneurship. But yeah, it's that really beautiful community building that I imagine whenever you talk about it.
Well, absolutely, because I know that a lot of the lawyers that I've worked with in the past they've struck out on their own. Not many of them are still at working in big law, and I wish I look for opportunities where we can work together, but they don't pop up, super often. And when they do, there's usually a lot of time pressure, and all sorts of other things come into play that just make it difficult to push the button and make that collaboration happen. So a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's people who I like working with, but I also don't want to give up my own autonomy to work with them. It's, sometimes it's just, this is a nice project for us to team up on. Let's help out this client with something that's beyond my resources, and and then everybody wins. It's slice the pie or something like that. So that was the main motivator behind it, and it remains the main motivator. And as I've gone deeper into the project, I've met so many more lawyers that I really want to work with, because I'm trying to build the community. So to build a community, you meet more people, and the lawyers are interesting, and they're generally pretty fun people once you scratch the surface and get them out of a suit.
Yeah, and well, we had a previous guest, Winnie, who was talking about how many lawyers do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I can imagine. And
Well,
what
can I
about
just on that, not necessarily on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but one of our there's one of the board members of the Lex Nova Guild is a lawyer named Beck Johnson Ryan, and my wife met her at a powerlifting gym. So we don't, we have lives outside of this.
Yeah, lawyers are whole people, and
Yeah.
it's so fun. So you're building this platform, and the concept of building something that is entirely bespoke has now become more or less more accessible than ever before.
Yeah.
How did you get to the point of vibe coding, and what, for anybody who hasn't seen code before, it can sound quite, even vibe doesn't really get rid of the intimidation from it. So for those who might be a bit like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah. Vibe coding is basically a new means, or a new to me and probably new to most people, way of developing software using AI tools. So since ChatGPT came out and was widely available, one of the first things that it was able to do was assist developers to write code and check code and all those kinds of things. It basically, because it's large language models, look at languages, and coding is a language. It can understand the code and help you write the code that you need to deploy in your project. There's now tools that help people that are non-developers like myself. I can't read code. I'm starting to read the matrix the more that I get into it. But the fact that you can communicate in natural language with a tool that can then convert what you're describing into code now means that people like me and you, and also I think lawyers generally, to develop software tools to their own specification. I had no intention of getting into it until literally about going on 2 months ago. I was told about a tool called Lovable, which is what I'm now using to solve this issue. So basically, it's a combination of necessity and opportunity coming together at the right point in time for me. I had been looking to raise funds and spec'd out the project, and I'd gone and I was talking to various developers about getting it built and what it will cost and how long it will take and all these kinds of things. And it's a real difficult chicken and egg problem for us to have with the Lex Nova Guild, because we need to have that software for the community to be able to collaborate in the way that we intend it to. The software is key to being able to do it. Like, we can't, do it by fax machine or email or whatever. It's like we need to have something.
The platform is central.
The platform is central. So I was talking with a friend. Literally was at the launch of the Lex Nova Guild event that we had at the beginning of July. and was discussing this issue, and he said, "Have you heard of Lovable?" And I said, "No." It says, "Check it out. You could probably build your MVP in Lovable." As with many of these tools, it's very easy to get into, and suddenly I'm like knee deep in the project of building the Lex Nova Guild software. And on Friday this week, I'll be doing a brief demo of basically the workflow of how lawyers will engage each other and work together through the software. So it's not, and by no means is it near finished or polished, but it is far enough along that I can actually demonstrate the concept in a visual way.
Right. So, I'm just so excited about hearing all of these new things that are now accessible for lawyers. But I'm going to go back to our original, we are a professional show here, and we do prepare with our list of questions beforehand. And I think that highlights something that is still really topical. It's been topical forever, but now is probably where there's a lot more different and new ways of dealing with challenges faced by those setting up their own practice. And that's something that obviously you've done. And how those sorts of experiences ultimately led you to become lawyer and software curator and now software builder.
The first thing that it's not so much what you need to do, but what you kind of need to let go of. This is advice that cuts across life and business, and as well as like your professional experience, is that you need to leave what you think you need to look like behind. So when we work in big law and those sort of larger practices, there's a way that we're supposed to present ourselves. There's a way that we dress, and the way our offices look, and all these kinds of things which communicate, are supposed to communicate value and expertise. But when you get out into solo practice, it doesn't feel, generally, probably doesn't feel as genuine to you, that like, oh, I'm just working at home, and do I put it on a suit when I'm working at home? I'm not actually meeting that many clients. I find that I'm doing a lot more Zoom calls. Is it necessary for all of that sort of facade to play a role in how I practice? So it's not just about the dress, it's also about the way we perceive ourselves in comparison to other lawyers, because that's, we've kind of pre-programmed about what a lawyer is supposed to look like. And we think that now we're running our own practice, we're supposed to continue to communicate the things in the same way we always have. But that is unlike, your market is likely to be quite different from the one that you've come from if you're working in a bigger law firm. And the values of your clients might be slightly different if you're changing, because I think when you go into smaller practice, at least you're bringing a large number of, or solid foundation of clients with you. The culture of your firm is going to be really quite different and dictated by the clients you work with and the environment that you find yourself in. I guess what I'm getting at is that you need to find out who you are, what drives you in your practice, and be more comfortable to communicate that through the work that you do. And in that way, you will find your path into finding the clients that match your values, finding the people that will work in your firm that match your values. And the reality is that the reason that a lot of us go into solo practice is not for necessarily even financial reasons. It's usually lifestyle reasons. So of course, money plays a role, but it can't be everything, because if it were, you'd stay in big law and you'd try and work your way up to the top, and you'd work yourself to death and have a few failed marriages under your belt.
The advice that you just gave is so wise, and let me explain from my perspective why I said that. Because obviously I'm doing my PhD in how lawyers can navigate the conflicts between law as a profession and law as a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's ultimately an ethics doctor of philosophy. And the thing about a PhD is you can't get away from the philosophical part. And
Hmm.
yes, I have spent a fair amount of time laying on the floor wondering, what is.
Hmm.
It's very existential. But one of there's two actually things that you said that is relevant to what I've read about values-based ethical philosophy that's center to how I'm proposing to navigate the conflicts between professionalism and commercialism, and that is letting go, that concept of letting go.
Mm.
So the value pluralists, the ethical philosophers that talk about how there isn't a singular cardinal value that you've got to aim for. It's not it like happiness is this kind of nebulous thing that involves lots of different values. And
Mm.
so there are actually many values that come into conflict all the time. And in that nature of where there's more than a singular right way to decide, to make a decision always involves loss of some kind.
Mhm.
And in order for you to sit comfortably with your decision, you have to work out what you're willing to tolerate to lose.
Mhm.
And so that's precisely what you were talking about when comparing, big law and going out on your own. Like obviously, if you're starting to ask those sorts of questions, you've already decided there's some kind of conflict there,
Mhm.
and then you've got to weigh up, well, what are the things that you're going to peel off? Is it your suit skin?
Mm.
Is
That's
it,
right.
particular clients? Is it, a particular area of practice that you no longer want to really be involved in and you want to sort of deviate?
Yeah.
And then the other concept is, about the values themselves is understanding yourself, I think is a big part of life. And it's really cool to talk to somebody like you who really identifies that
Mm.
as a key part of practice. You're a busy lawyer, entrepreneur, and you've got a young family as well. Like, oh my goodness, how do you manage to stay on top of it all, and including these advancements when it comes to legal technology and the AI stuff you're doing? I also have a secondary question to that, and that is, what would you suggest others do? So potentially, what kind of rabbit holes have you found yourself in?
The big answer and simple answer is I really have focused most of my solo practice career on building efficient tools and systems to allow me um, to focus on the work that needs my attention. That's tends to be the more interesting part of the work, but it also is also the most impactful part of the work for the clients. Is where when I'm sitting and I'm actually thinking, strategizing my way through the issue that they've got. That's where I need to be spending my time, not not spending 15 minutes writing an email trying to organize a meeting in 3 weeks time, or the administration, um, and or doing first drafts of documents where I'm copying and pasting things out of an email into the body of my precedent, all that sort of stuff that I think is pretty rote. If it's the same kind of work that I find myself doing over and over, and it feels it doesn't feel creative, it doesn't feel like it's leveraging my brain and my expertise, it's usually a good sign that it's something that can be systemized, and or delegated to someone else or something like that. And even delegation requires a system around what do you delegate, all that kind of stuff. So I've focused on building efficiencies into my practice, which allow me to focus on the brain time, the actual
Mm.
meat of the work. And that allows me to, because I'm also a very creative person, it means that I can actually engage in a few more projects than what I would otherwise be able to do.
Time management isn't about doing more in the same amount of time. It's about doing the the most, like prioritizing the most appropriate things and then working out your systems for those other stuff. But how do
Mm.
you build, how do you, like, how have you built your discipline to recognize that when you, like, have there been times where you've identified and gone, you've jumped into something that is toiling, it is about drafting or, one of those repeatable, non-creative tasks, and you've gone, wait a minute, I should really systematize this.
It usually it's a recurring, I'd say, feeling that pops up from time to time in life, but in legal practice, where I'm frustrated. I don't like
Follow the frustration.
follow the frustration, like I call, they're just pain points, right? Like, so
Mm.
pain points for me, I'll give you an example of one that I've solved reasonably recently. Is my email, I'd come to work and I'd have 63 emails at the beginning of the day, every day. And
Oh no, there's emails in the email machine.
yeah, that's right. And I'm like, oh my God. And you look at that number and you think, oh, that's ridiculous. And then you go through them in the order that they've landed in your inbox, and you go, okay, well, archive, archive, archive. There might be 3, 5 maybe that need my attention, but you still have to go through the 63 emails to, was the 60 other emails to get to the ones to prioritize them. And then I recently started using a tool called Fixer, which operates in the back end of Outlook, I believe. It's on the Azure cloud, is how they explain it to me. Anyway, I've used that to categorize my emails. So it basically reads my emails and it applies a tag to it, and then it ranks them. So the emails that I need to respond to will always be at the top of my inbox, and it will have already prepared a draft for me. How good that draft is neither here nor there, but it's always helpful to have a draft. I find editing faster than writing from scratch.
Mm.
And then it's got FYI, so I can just check things that I need to know about, but not necessarily need to action. And then you go notifications, marketing, stuff like that. So I can literally just select all of the marketing and go mark as read and get on with my day. So I really only spend maybe 15 minutes a day on emails.
So do you have any sort of set things before we go into our final question and final segment, but any sort of way that you can find relief to allow you to think creatively, to have that time where you're not feeling like do.
It's I need to be very flexible around it just because of the nature of the work I do. So I never know when something's going to come in from a client that needs to be actioned. But the way, well, it's actually connected. There's a few things that connect that will explain this answer. So first, the efficiency comes first, and being able to deliver the work quickly, so that the less time I spend delivering legal work, the more time I have to apply my mind to solving the issues that I want to solve, or to have time to solve the bigger problems for my clients when they've got a real hairy issue that is complex and delicate and requires literally needs you to run a number of scenarios, try and pick the best aspects from each of them, see if there's a way to synthesize them into one answer. There's a lot of thinking time that goes into that sort of stuff as well. But I can only do all of that because I don't bill for time. So
I was thinking that. I was like, this ties into time-based billing. Tell us how.
It's to my detriment if I am able to solve a problem quickly for my client, given my years of expertise and what I know, and I'm just not incentivized to deliver what is for the client very valuable work, because it solves a big problem for them if I can do that in 5 minutes. And it's like, well, took me years to get the expertise to be able to come up with this really elegant solution and hand that over to the client. And all I've done was think about it for 5 minutes and spend 10 minutes writing an email. It seems kind of a little bit grotesque to me that if I wanted to make money out of that, I basically need to drag my heels to get that information out. the idea that once I've decoupled time from the value of the work, so I really focus on the number of solutions I can provide to a client for the same money, effectively. I have retainer clients, and that's basically how I explain it to them. I also collect data on the number of problems I can solve for the same amount of money, because it's disconnected from time. So and time is an input. But it's not the only input. And so I have this conversation with clients as well. It's like, so, if you come to me with an urgent task, there should in fact be a premium on me having to drop other work for other clients that are waiting on me, who I've said that I'd get them something delivered today, but then you've come in with your really big problem that is, is a big issue. And so somebody else not getting their work done, and also I've got to drop everything, and now suddenly I'm behind on my planned workflow, and I'm stressed out. But I should only charge you the same amount I was charging the other client. To me, that makes no sense. If it is urgent, it should be of more value to this client than the other client who they're jumping in the queue to get their work done. So I've built in an urgency modifier, it adds a load into the sizing system that we use for retainer work and for fixed fee quoting.
And I'm assuming your clients are absolutely aware of that. They know that, and that's why they come to you, because you're very transparent on how that works for them.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of pushback and a lot of examining their assumptions as to why, because I do get pushback from time to time, like, oh, it would just be easier if you could just tell us the time you spent on it. And I'm like, no, because and for these reasons, it's not in your
not in your interest.
It's not in your interest, because with my retainer clients, for instance, say I've got to do, we commit to providing, say, the equivalent. It's not the same as, it's the equivalent of 140 hours a month. So we have a sizing system that roughly, we use a notional value that you can use conceptually to connect with an hour. Because I've disconnected actual time from the units of that have that notional value, I aim to over deliver every month, so that I can show the difference between what they've committed to pay me for and what they actually receive. That difference there that's the value. That's the additional value over and above what they've gotten out of the box for the work that I've done.
And ultimately, you can only do that because of your relentless discipline when it comes to efficiency. I know you really wanted to answer this last question before we get into the guest favorite segment, which is the conversation cards. But before we get into the conversation cards, what's your one piece of advice for lawyers considering setting up their own shop?
Maybe it's not a piece of advice. Maybe it is something to bear with, to think about when you're going out on your own, and it is that you are not actually on your own. What you're doing is the same as what tens of thousands of other lawyers are also doing, and it feels very isolating because you're kicking off something that is very new to you. It's going to require more skills. You're going to be juggling more balls, and it puts a lot more pressure, different kinds of pressure on you than what you are used to. But just know that there are lots of other people who have been through what you are going through, and also in the same situation as you. That may be with dealing with fallow periods, or being overworked, or the life pressures that come with working late when your partner wants you to put the kids to bed, those kinds of things. It can feel like you're the only one in the world dealing with that, but it's not the case. And that's why I encourage you to still try and stay in touch with other lawyers to talk about these kinds of things. it's very helpful, and I stay in contact with lots and lots of lawyers just to talk about stuff, even if I don't have any work to share with them, or I'm not really digging around for work necessarily. I just like to hear what's the word on the street.
You might be a sole practitioner, but you are not alone. It's time to have a chat from these discussion cards. So for those that are joining on this episode for the first time, I have these discussion cards. You can hear me shuffling them for those listening. You can see me doing a terrible job on the video. And Yule, if you could invite any 3 people in the world to dinner, past or present, fictional or real, who would you invite and why?
First would be Jason Schwartzman, the actor, because my wife and I had this discussion about who we think we would make good friends with, not necessarily idols or anything like that. Someone who you think you'd probably actually enjoy going out to have coffee with, because I think if a lot of the people we like or admire are probably not going to want to spend a whole heap of time with them. So I think I'd like to have Jason Schwartzman over for a cup of tea or dinner. Who else? Like Alexi Sale. I'm really enjoying what he's doing online at the moment. He seems really fun. Oh, and Gary Stevenson of Gary's Economics. So those are my 3.
Fantastic. And why Gary?
So I've read Gary's book. If you don't know who Gary is, it was a Citibank trader in the UK and Japan right around the time of the GFC, and he's a he's working class Cockney sort of person, but his kind of class consciousness, I guess, is what gives him a different perspective from the other traders that work for the bank. And he was the number 1 trader for that bank in the world post GFC, and now he's really out there talking about wealth inequality and that sort of stuff, which is something that I really think about quite a lot. And I also see parallels between what his experience was working for the big banks as to what my experience was working for big firms.
Very cool. Oh, thank you so much, Yule. It was amazing getting to have a chat to you on the show. This has been the Law and Beyond show on the People and Legal podcast. And if you've enjoyed the show, please think about leaving a review because it helps other listeners find the show, and we'll see you next time.